Welcome on back to another episode of the Goonery. We are here to talk about the Bears losing another game. Who cares? Draft pick got better. And Justin Fields, for my money, for your money, Brandon, speaking for you, has never looked better.
We were just talking before the show that it was pleasantly surprising that he played as well as he did. And I'll go as far as to say, as a pure NFL quarterback, that was the best Justin Fields has ever looked.
Yep.
And this was against a Packers team who was in the top 10 in terms of pass defense.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's keep that to perspective. But you watch games like these, and as football fans, like we're Bears fans, but we love football in general.
Mhm.
And I think like this season is obviously a wash. We're looking towards a draft pick, we're looking towards free agency and whatnot. But one thing that I can definitely say is I am ready for football to end. I am looking
Mhm.
forward to see what the Bears are gonna cook up to fill this team with all types of talent, because I think a lot of people have a lot of doubts about where this team is going to go because the scheme hasn't been working out defensively.
Mhm.
No one on the defensive line can get any type of pressure. We're giving up a lot of yards in the secondary, and people who question whether Allen Williams is going to be the right fit for this defense or Matt Eberflus's scheme is the right thing for this team. But
Mhm.
fact of the matter is, for all the games that the Bears have played, they've been in it.
Yep.
Like
Oh,
let's
they have.
call it what it is. So I think I'm just excited for this offseason. Like it's cool to me that for these playoffs, like from a general perspective, we're going to see maybe new contenders be
Mhm.
in the Super Bowl this year. That's awesome to see, especially with what happened this past week.
Yeah.
It seems like the league is wide open in terms of AFC, and maybe to a lesser extent the NFC.
Mhm.
But um, in terms of the Bears, I don't know how the narrative keeps running that Justin Fields is a running back. Yeah, one run that with
Yeah.
60,
60
67
or
yards.
50, I think it was 55 and it was a touchdown. Regardless,
Yeah,
great run. It,
it was.
that I mean, like that's what makes him so special is that he can stand in the pocket and complete 80% of his passes when he's thrown to the likes of a shitty Chase Claypool right now, Equiminius St. Brown, and Cole Kmet, and N'Keal Harry. I mean, he completed 80% of his passes and he threw the ball 25 times. I mean, I would have to look at the box scores this year, but if I was to guess, I would say that's probably the top three, no doubt. Probably the most passes he's thrown in a game all year. And we're being honest, Luke Getsy kind of fucked him down the stretch with his play calling. He was completing 80% of his passes and wasn't letting him air it out. And I understand the draft pick gets better, whatever. But now the whole narrative that Justin Fields can't win in the fourth quarter just keeps spinning and snowballing and snowballing.
Yeah.
And it comes down to because Equiminius St. Brown ran the wrong fucking route. He just
Yes.
stopped running. I mean, the ball that was a timing route, and Equiminius St. Brown just stopped. Fields threw the ball where it's supposed to be. That second
Yeah.
interception is not on him. It's not. It was not on him, in my opinion. And I think we saw this week the two best throws he's made all year. This past week,
Yes.
the one went the deep ball to St. Brown. That was he underthrew it a little bit, but he put it right in the exact right spot where it had to be, where only St. Brown's going to catch it. That was great. And then two, N'Keal Harry. I just want to talk. We've talked N'Keal Harry on this show a little bit throughout the year. The man cooked Jair Alexander on that route.
Oh, yes, he
That would
did.
that like that is where you see those first round flashes where you're like, all right, like this guy can still be something. I don't see there being any situation where Ryan Poles looks at N'Keal Harry and goes, you know what? I don't want you here next year. There's no
Yeah.
reason he should not be here next year because when he's actually on the field, he's making a difference.
Right.
He for this may be crazy. I think he's the most naturally talented wide receiver on this roster.
Including Mooney and Claypool, you're
Yes.
saying.
Yes. Naturally
Interesting.
talented. Naturally
Interesting.
talented. I mean, I'm not discounting Claypool yet. Mooney's great when he's healthy. He is. It took him and Fields a little bit to get going this year. But I mean, N'Keal Harry is a prototypical, size-wise, a prototypical wide receiver one in the NFL. He was a first-round pick
That's
for a
true.
reason. And I still think he can maybe, I'm not going to say he's going to be a true number one, but he gives the Bears a little bit of a buffer this offseason heading in where they may not have to spend on receiver like they initially thought they would. If him and Fields can show something here down the stretch these last few weeks with Mooney on the shelf, Claypool and Fields maybe get a little bit more rapport going,
Yeah.
and you've seen Cole Kmet come to life. It's been a pleasant surprise.
Absolutely. And one thing that the only thing that genuinely concerns me is I know we talk about Claypool and Fields may not being on the same page yet. And I think that's clear as day.
Yeah.
But I think the only thing that can hold back this offense is its offensive coordinator. And
Mhm.
listen, the theories are probably going to be out there. He is committed to the tank, and it was a clear situation where Fields was the hot hand and you took the ball out of his hands. Now, who knows if that theory is true? I'm not going to say that theory is true. I just generally think that Lou Getsy's a little bit arrogant, and he didn't want to put the ball in his quarterback's hands. And maybe where this theory has credence is he knows if Fields gets the ball in his hand, he can do damage whether with his legs or with his
Mhm.
arm. So who knows? He could have forecasted Cairo Santos missing a kick
I mean, yeah,
uncharacteristically. You can't forecast this stuff. But one thing I will say is this: in terms of the receiving core, I think you still take whatever it takes. You still do whatever it takes to
oh,
get as many
no,
weapons as possible.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm not saying not do anything, but I think Carey
Right.
gives you a little bit of a buffer.
Right. And I think what's going to be important to look to down the stretch is how are these receivers? Because if we're really being honest, it's under very unfortunate circumstances, but you get to see what N'Keal Harry can do.
Yeah.
We get to see what Chase Claypool can be as a possible number 2 wide receiver. And Byron Pringle, he could be fighting for a roster spot.
Yeah.
Granted, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not including St. Brown. He's going to be good as gold next year because
Mhm.
he is just not a good wide receiver. And that route, I listen. I'm saying this as a guy that played wide receiver in pickup games in my younger days. Okay, I know I can't run. I know I run routes like say Equinemius St. Brown, but you know what the difference between me and Equinemius is that St. Brown is a professional. I am not, but I run the same exact routes as him. Okay, so the thing that bothers me more than anything, and I want to go back to that whole Justin Fields is not clutch in the fourth quarter. I'm sorry, people gotta remind me. Um, let's go back to the Dolphins game. The Dolphins game,
Mhm.
it was a blatant missed pass interference call, and St. Brown dropping a pass on first down, which went for a first down, which by the way, Fields put it right in his hands. He just dropped it. And the Lions game, the offensive line played so poorly in that game. And
Mhm.
Fields had it because I know we talk about this Packers game being the best game he has played. I can argue that Lions game was the best game he played because the
Oh,
stuff that he
mhm.
had to do in that game when the offensive line decided they didn't want to play that day, he did a lot. He did a whole lot for
Yeah.
that team. So that really his fault? Not really. Especially they missed a blatant late hit on Justin Fields in
That
that
was
game
yeah, that
too.
I mean,
It was
that was I think in my opinion, that was his real coming out party on the national stage. Again, I know they lost that game by 1, but he ran for 150 yards, ran for 2 touchdowns, I think, and he threw
yes,
for about a buck 75 and 2 touchdowns, if I
I believe so.
remember. I mean, it was he was not the reason they lost that game. And
Absolutely.
anyone with a pair of eyes should know that.
You will be hard pressed to find a game this year that you say Justin Fields legitimately lost that game. There
Mhm.
may have been games he hasn't played well. We can look back
Mhm.
to early in the season. He didn't play well against He didn't play well against San Francisco. Didn't play well against Green Bay the first time around. Played horribly. The worst game of his season was probably against Houston, and Washington was the real turning point. Ever since that Washington game, everything turned around for him. And if anybody, because I hear it even from guys that I hear on sports talk radio. I live in the tri-state area. I listen to New York sports radio,
Mhm.
and people would bring up that Zach Wilson isn't good, but would Justin Fields be any better? He can't. He's more of a
Oh,
running back. But this is what happens when you look at the box score and you're not really doing the homework.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also been the thing for a lot of these fans that sit there and watch the score, watch the box score. Oh, he rushed for 90 something yards, 100 something yards, 150 yards. So does that mean he can't throw the football? No, he has a chance to throw the football. He just has a chance to do more damage with his legs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that with everything that is coming together on this offense, the only enemy that we're going to have is Luke Getsy. And it may not be as a consistent of a threat because there's games where
Mm-hmm.
he's calling, you're just like, damn, he's a genius. But
Yeah.
then there's where you're just like, what are you doing?
And
Look who you have at quarterback.
no, exactly. And it's one of those things you don't want to say it, but you have to wonder with how the play calling went in the fourth quarter. Was Ryan Poles in his ear at halftime, letting him know, like, hey, if we're up in the fourth quarter, maybe don't try and go for the jugular. Just, play reserved. And it's not a big deal if we lose this game, right? Like, I
Right.
mean, that you have to imagine because the play calling in the first half was fine, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It really was. Then you get to the second half, and I mean, it wasn't working. Montgomery was not working. They couldn't get the running game going. It doesn't make sense. And I think it's just been a head scratching all year watching Getsy. It's been highs and lows with him all year because there's weeks on this show where we're like, what the hell are you doing? You don't know how to use Fields. Then there's, wow, look at that. Getsy finally figured out how to use Fields. Isn't it crazy what happens when you play to your quarterback's strengths? And we are right back down at the bottom again.
And one thing that kind of like leads kind of like the credence to the whole committed to the tank rules for Getsy. Jaquan Brisket didn't play in that game, but he did tweet out that was going to be the last one for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is the case, let's just say Ryan Poles was pulling the strings and peeing in his ear and saying, hey, do what you can to not get a touchdown here. Ryan Poles going to put on the masterclass in this free agency and draft. That's what it's telling me at this moment in time because obviously this is all speculation, but let's just say that it is the truth. Like I expect Poles to be spending like an absolute madman and lying straight to our face from his press conference from last year, which I'm completely fine if I hate being lied to, but if this is the time I'll be lied to, then it might as well be this time.
I mean, 125 million in cap, man. That's
you can't fuck that up.
That's unprecedented in the NFL. You're gonna be, just we're in an age of where free agent contracts, regardless of the sport, are just as crazy as ever. As crazy as ever. And
found that out today.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not paying an over 30 outfielder $400 million, but hey, to each their own. But it's just $125 million. You have Justin Fields has played well enough this year where the Bears have become more of a destination than they've been in a very long time, right?
Correct.
More likely than not, they're going to have the second overall pick. They have to trade back, right? Like, there's no scenario where it doesn't make sense to trade back. It just sucks that the quarterback class is so weak this year compared to next year. Because I mean, there's Bryce Young, there's CJ Stroud. They're going to be top 5 picks. They will be. But then after that, who do you have who are going to be first round picks? Will Levis, who in my opinion sucks. What's his name? Anthony Richardson from Florida, probably a second or third round pick, a bit of a project.
And you know who's going to sneak into the first round? Probably Tanner McKee from
Yeah.
Stanford.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It happens every year because it's always those top 2-3 guys that are like shoo-ins. And I hate to say it, but Will Levis is going to be a shoo-in to be a top 10 pick.
Which is insane.
Insane. He's going to get somebody fired.
Good.
He's going to get somebody fired.
Yeah.
But you look past that. Let's say Tanner McKee can turn some faces. You got Sam Hartman. He's good. He could. And then the real wild card, even though he's probably not even going to practice in the scouting combine, Hendon Hooker is going to be out there. He's going to be somebody's project. So you literally never know with the draft class with quarterbacks. But I do think that me and you should be rooting for a quarterback to come out of nowhere.
Oh,
We can
absolutely.
overvalue them.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I am all for it. It's just like, I know this rebuild seemingly so far has gone about as good as it could go. And the only thing that
Yes.
could have made it better is if this quarterback class was great,
Yeah.
because the haul that they would have gotten for a trade up here would have been astronomical if it was any other year, because I don't think there's any real franchise quarterback in this draft this year.
I won't go that far because I genuinely believe that Young and Stroud are going to be the top of this class, but they're gonna need time. They're gonna need time.
Yeah, I mean, out of the two, I mean, honestly, looking at this, there are two quarterbacks, in my opinion, who will potentially become consistent starters. I don't think it's going to be Stroud. I think it's Bryce Young and Hendon Hooker if his knee recovers well enough. Because you saw what Hooker was able to do this year at Tennessee, and it's also a shame that he is not a Heisman finalist just because he tore his ACL. The fact that Hendon Hooker is not in New York and Stetson Bennett, Slant Boy, is in New York is a crock of shit, but that's a whole different conversation. Regardless, I saw a rumor circulating around on Twitter a little bit with if the Bears were to end up with the second overall pick, they make a trade with the Colts, right? The Colts trade up because, I mean, it is just, I mean, in some states it could be considered elderly abuse, what's happening to Matt Ryan on the football field right now.
Oof.
But the thing I've been seeing tossed around has been the Bears absorbing DeForest Buckner's contract. All right, that fills a need. Yes, it's
Yep.
expensive, but that fills a need, and he's still very good. And then I think it was 2 first-round picks in addition to a swap for their first-round pick this year, and then like a mid-round pick. You absolutely do that.
Oh, 1000%.
Like, it almost seems too good to be true. And if that's the scenario, I get it's Twitter, and I get that it's not going to happen. But if that's even a scenario that people aren't clowning, you just have to imagine what the haul would be like if it was a good quarterback class.
Listen, if the Colts end up in a position where they could take because the thing is, we will be number 2.
Mhm.
Guess what? There might be a team that's going to be ahead of us that is going to want a quarterback. And a very big reminder, regardless of what people thought about that Trubisky trade that we made a couple of years back, guess what? A lot of teams would have done the same damn thing, but they would never, ever, ever admit that. It just so happens that Mitch Trubisky was the wrong quarterback to do that for. Now, if you're going to compare Bryce Young or CJ Stroud to Mitch Trubisky, and you're not going to make that trade, well, you're just being a fool because they're different quarterbacks and they're much better than what Trubisky was at that moment in time. So the best thing possible is for one of these quarterback desperate, needy teams to say, please let us jump you. I don't know if it's going to be the Falcons. I don't know if it's going to be the Saints. I don't know it's going to be the Panthers. I don't know it's going to even be the Buccaneers if Tom Brady makes his triumphant return back to New England. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the best thing possible is maintaining that second spot so somebody can be a fool and give us a haul. Because let me tell you, we could fill 2 needs in that one round. And I wouldn't know what to do. I don't even know how to do a backflip on my 25 at my age of 25, but I'll figure out how to do one.
Yeah, so I mean, just moving on now to just a little bit of a league wrap up here, roundup. I mean, we have to talk about the NFC East here. I mean, the division, I'm not going to say no one saw coming, but it's the best division in football. And
Yes.
I mean, you have 2 legitimate Super Bowl contenders at the top of the division in the Eagles and the Cowboys, right? The Eagles hosted Tennessee this past week and got Tennessee Titans GM fired after AJ Brown just torched him for like 130 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Who didn't see that coming?
I mean, what do you think that conversation was like between the GM of Titans, his name is slipping my mind, and ownership after that game? Do you think it's like, I mean, I thought it made sense. We replaced AJ Brown with Traylon Burks. Like, I mean, I know the jury's still out on Traylon Burks. I know he's a rookie. I'm not clowning them, and I get that they weren't going to pay AJ Brown, but they're in first place in their division, and they traded a top, probably 7 or 8 receiver in football.
Yeah.
And
By the way, I don't know if anyone knows this, but Tennessee was a number 1 seed last year. They were a number 1 seed, regardless. Because listen, Bengals were a hot team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, because you can't even say that, because if the Bengals didn't make the Super Bowl last year, then maybe you have a point. Like, if they got knocked up by the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, you're like, okay, well, yeah, like it's not as embarrassing, but I don't think the conversation about between the owner and John Robinson is what we should be talking about. I very much remember draft night. We saw the war room of the Tennessee Titans, and Mike Vrabel was pissed at John Robinson for trading AJ Brown.
Yeah.
So I think it was like, okay, we're going to play this game against the Eagles. AJ Brown's going to be motivated. He's going to want to kick our ass, right? So let's just say that he does kick our ass. You know your ass is going to be grass, right? You know that I did not want to get rid of him in the first place, but you was heavily contingent on getting rid of him and dashing any simple chances that we had. Yeah, I want him gone. And if you're going to choose between Vrabel and the GM, guess what? I'm taking Vrabel 100 times over.
Yep.
Okay? So, but talk about that game specifically. I said the Titans were going to win this game. I thought for sure that if there's a team that's going to match the physicality of Philadelphia, it's going to be Tennessee.
And that they're really I don't know what other team will and can
at this point. It's only Dallas. It's only Dallas, because that team is so talent is obvious, but physicality wise, Philadelphia is on another level, and it's going to play super well in the postseason, especially with teams like Minnesota, who we kind of see we're going to find out about them. We're going to find out. And then you have Dallas. Dallas is the only team that can really match the physicality wise. And then you have San Francisco. They can match your physicality wise. Losing Jimmy G, killer. And I can't think of a quarterback with worse luck. And he's going to lose out a lot of money because of this injury, unfortunately. Thankfully, he avoided a Lisfranc injury, but unlucky. But Philly's a class of that division. But I tell you, I know the Giants aren't that good. I know they are a fraud 7-win team at this moment in time, but the Giants are going to give them a run for their money. If I don't know what the line is right now on that game, I would pick the Giants to cover. That game's going to be closer than people think.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Jalen Hurts is playing at such a high level right now, and if he maintains that hot hand, you pair that offense. I mean, you have 2 legitimate wide receiver ones on that team in Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. I mean, Miles Sanders looks as good as he's looked in years. Hurts isn't even really running the ball last week, yes, he obviously went out for 150 yards or whatever it was, but other than that, he's really kind of cooled off on the scrambling this year. And that was his best game as a passer, for my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he threw for almost, I think, 350, 375, something like that, 3 touchdowns. It was a great game. There is no team in the NFC, in my opinion, that can keep up with them offensively. If you're getting into a track meet with the Eagles right now in the NFC, I really don't think there's anyone who even comes close to matching up with them, other than maybe Dallas. Maybe.
Yeah.
And, I mean, but that division, you have right now 4 playoff teams, which who would have seen that coming? Especially,
not me.
I mean, yes, the Eagles had a great week. I saw it on Twitter, Giants fans saying that they didn't lose their biggest game in 8 years or something like that. And that kind of made me laugh, but they tied it. But do you think, here's my question about that game. You think Taylor Heineke bought a pair of red, white, and blue Jordans to celebrate the tie.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, 1000%.
But I think Washington, this kind of happens with them every year, in my opinion, where they go on a little run here heading into the end of the year, and everyone always says, "Man, this team's just a quarterback away. They're frisky. They're frisky." It's every year. It's a quarterback
fucking
away.
year.
And I mean, their defense is playing better. Taylor Heineke played pretty damn good against the Giants too for
Yes.
Taylor Heineke, and Brian Robinson's looking like a legit bell cow.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Like, I would not want to play the Washington Commanders if I had to in the playoffs, which is insane. If
not
you
at all.
would have said that 4 or 5 weeks ago, I would have asked what the hell happened?
Exactly. And one thing that is scary about a team in the playoffs is a team that can make chicken shit into chicken salad. That's basically Washington.
Mhm.
And Taylor Heineke, I think we all acknowledge that he's a quarterback that you could plug and play. He's not a guy who's gonna be a franchise quarterback. However, that plug and play guy can do a lot if asked to, and that is scary for any team because remember, Washington defensively, they're pretty damn good.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. They got a whole lot of guys.
Their team.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if Chase Young played last week. I think he did, but I'm not sure. But even then, their best player is not even all the way back yet.
Yep.
So listen, they went into Washington. They went into Philly. They beat them. The only loss for Philly this year.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only team that gave them fits. I'm sorry. If I'm any team in the NFC East, I don't want to see them guys. Hell no, I want to see them guys because I'm telling you, that team can be the ultimate. Because we could talk about Tampa Bay being that team. They have no expectations. Tom Brady being the quarterback or whatnot.
I don't even think you can make that argument anymore.
You can't. That game against New Orleans, it confirmed it. You beat a bad New Orleans team. I don't want to hear it. But forget them. If you put Tampa Bay and Washington on the field, Washington might beat them. Okay. So,
and was it last year? Was it last year or 2 years ago where Washington almost beat Tampa?
Almost.
In the playoffs? Yep.
Almost.
And so, just on the topic of Tampa Bay, real quick, they're going to win that division. They're going to go into the playoffs. And this is wild to think. I don't think Brady really has lost the zip on his ball yet, right?
No, he hasn't.
He has lost the ability to stand in the pocket as long as he used to, just because of how fucking terrible their offensive line is. And their offense is nothing but, I know the joke used to be that Brady used to throw nothing but screens and slants when he was in New England, but that is legitimately what it feels like watching these Tampa games right now, is that Brady just has to get the ball out of his hand, because if he doesn't, he's dead. He is dead with how bad that offensive line is, and they cannot run the football to save their lives.
Yeah, and I just don't see. I watched a little bit of the game on Monday, and truthfully, I turned away from it because New Orleans stinks. We know that, but Tampa Bay just bores me to tears. It just feels like their offense is so lethargic, and the only time that they have any sense of urgency is when they're behind. They don't have any type of big plays, and they don't have any type of they don't have that offense that can blow you out. And you would think a Tom Brady offense, oh my goodness, with all the weapons he has around him, you would think, man, he could Tampa Bay could blow anybody. Look at the guys he's throwing to. It's not happening this year.
They scored 17 points against New Orleans, and Brady threw the ball 54 times.
That doesn't make any sense.
No. Their leading receiver, Chris Godwin, he had 13 targets, 8 catches, and he averaged under 8 yards per reception.
I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know if, because the coaching is not that different from last year. You still have Brian Leftwich.
And I do feel bad for that staff, because I've seen that switch kind of flip on the internet with how that staff is being talked about. They were handed, in all honesty, a horrible situation, an aging roster, people leaving, a horrible cap situation. And it's just, it was not as good of a situation, and you can't blame them for not leaving. I mean, the talent is there if they're going to make a run.
Right.
There's no reason they should be as well. I mean, the offensive line is the reason they're not as good as they should be, but no one really saw that like this much of a drop off coming.
Right. And fact of the matter is this. I don't know how much we could have expected from Todd Bowles because the shoes filled from Bruce Arians was pretty damn big. I mean, they won a Super Bowl. They were a deep ball away from potentially beating the Los Angeles Rams, the team that won the championship that year. And only God knows what would have happened if Tampa Bay would have played San Francisco in the NFC Championship. It's a lie, and you feel bad for Todd, but at the end of the day, the sympathy is not going to be felt because look who's their quarterback. It's a guy who's won all of his freaking life. Ain't nobody's going to feel bad for him. So I get it, but it's a sucky situation for everybody else involved.
Yeah, no, for sure. So kind of pivoting to the NFC West here. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. Brock Purdy comes in and played well. Brock Purdy played well, and it's always interesting when a team automatically rallies behind a quarterback, and the nicknames he's been getting, I mean, the locker room clearly loves him. And the crazy is, not sure if you heard the nicknames.
I have not.
They've been calling him BCB for Big Cock Brock.
Wow.
Yeah. So they are clearly rallying around him. And if this is anything like the Nick Foles situation in the past, I would not want to play the 49ers here. But seemingly what happened with Baker Mayfield being claimed by the Rams, which is just a crazy sentence to say in 2022 that the 2018 first overall pick was just claimed off of waivers after being cut from his second team. I don't care. I think the Rams and McVay clearly blocked the 49ers from getting Baker.
Yeah.
But just what an odd situation, man. Like, and as crazy as it sounds, I still don't think I'm completely out on Baker Mayfield being a competent NFL quarterback, as dumb as that may make me sound. You've seen the flashes enough, but the shit has outweighed the good. And I think anyone who's throwing the football to Cooper Kupp at a consistent basis has the potential to be good. And I know Kupp isn't playing right now, but I'm talking into the future. This move also kind of shows me that Stafford's injury might be worse than we think.
Yes.
I think that's something that's kind of being shoved under the rug a little bit, just because it's been really, really quiet. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's a spinal cord and a neck injury.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not really something you mess around with, and especially a guy who's been as beat up as he has throughout his career. So, I mean, I would not be surprised to see Baker Mayfield as the starting quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams week 1 next year.
We're on the same page with that. And let me be very, very clear. I don't root for anybody to fail. I don't root for anybody to be a bust, because being a bust sticks with you throughout your entire career, no matter what you do. Because even Ryan Leaf, he was a bust, and guess what? He's a damn good sportscaster, but people only didn't realize who he is because he's a bust.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield made himself into the villain that he sees in the mirror when he wakes up in the morning.
Yep.
Which is why I do not feel bad for him. Not at all. And the fact of the matter is this. Even at Oklahoma, I think everybody got distracted of how good he was at, playing football or whatnot. But we kind of forgot how arrogant of a son of a bitch that he was, right? So he gets drafted to Cleveland. He trashes Hugh Jackson. He may have a couple of good points about why he did what he did and whatnot. But then the whole Odell situation happens, and how he kind of like just took all the heat off of himself, him playing bad, and says, "Oh, well, this guy's crying he's not getting the football. Like, is it really my fault?" Yes, it was your fault.
Yep.
Actually, it was. Yep. And Cleveland figured that out when they got rid of Odell and still realized you were the issue. So what do? They get nasty, man. They traded for Deshaun Watson, right? So they traded for Deshaun Watson. They said, we don't need you anymore. We're going to strip you off to Carolina. He goes to Carolina, and you know what he does? He loses his job to PJ Walker, regardless of injury, right? And then not only does he come back, he loses his job to Sam Darnold. And now he's on the Rams. And I very much remember that week 1 game against Cleveland and his revenge game, as he called it. And he's selling t-shirts saying that they taking a leash off me. Really? You lost. You lost the game. So what are you talking about? It's just having a chip on your shoulder from being in the 1 pick. I totally get it, but you have to realize the NFL is a totally different animal than what you was in college. And guess what? The league woke you up. The league woke you up, and I'm pretty sure now, maybe, just maybe, because you have been humbled to the 10th power, and maybe now he will start to play better. Because, like I said, me and you on the same page. This move may seem very much a lateral move, because what other reason do you have to get Baker Mayfield when you're a team clearly out of playoff contention? You are auditioning to see if he can be your starting quarterback next year.
Yep.
So he's going to get that opportunity. Now, if he fails again, then what? I mean, the opportunities have to stop.
No, absolutely, and it's just it's going to be interesting to kind of see here if he does play tomorrow night or Thursday. Today, if you're listening to this on Thursday, short week. He's been there all of 2 days now, 2 days tops, and apparently, I saw that McVay is interested in letting him play Thursday against the Raiders, who are kind of surging. And I don't know if it would be better or worse for Baker Mayfield to have no structure, because as crazy as that sounds, if you just let him go out there and play backyard football, it might be better than Baker Mayfield with the playbook, because he clearly isn't good in structure. I don't know. It's going to be, it's not going to work out well either way if he plays Thursday night, but it's just, you have to, this is a good move for Baker career-wise regardless, because he'll be out in Hollywood, more Hulu commercials, more State Farm commercials. He's at the hub. He's at the hub. He's just closer to his actual future. And I don't know. And what's even crazier is that, it's just on the topic of just Carolina Panther quarterbacks, I'm still not completely out on Sam Darnold yet either. I still think he maybe, just maybe, could be okay.
I'll say this, because I have to be consistent, because I'm over here trashing Baker Mayfield. I don't think Sam Darnold is in. However, just like with Baker Mayfield, he has a chance to cement himself a spot for next year. All we got to do is wait and see. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't have faith in either, because I think from an intangible standpoint, I think Sam Darnold is just more gifted
for
than Baker Mayfield, but the results got to be there. And the fact of the matter is, if Sam Darnold is good enough, guess what? We have a legitimate competition at the top of the NFC South. As crazy as that sounds. So we shall see. But yeah, I think it is a very, very, very interesting situation going on in the NFC West, which and we didn't even talk about Seattle still lurking around, and San Francisco. I still think San Francisco, they're in a situation where if Brock Purdy doesn't turn the football over, they are just as dangerous as they were with Jimmy G. And I think, because I very much remember Brock Purdy prior to his last year at Iowa State. People were talking about him potentially being a quarterback that could be a project quarterback. And consider the fact that he was the backup to Jimmy G, regardless if it was Trey Lance, then Jimmy G and whatnot. I still think that is a very big vote of confidence. And truthfully, I know people like to rag on Kyle Shanahan for not having that much success in the playoffs, having, good enough teams to make a Super Bowl run. But I think if for a young quarterback, the one coach you will want to have drawing up plays and putting you in the best
Mhm.
situation is Kyle Shanahan. So I have a lot of faith in Brock Purdy to get the job done.
Yeah, Brock Purdy is either going to lose Jimmy Garoppolo a shit ton of money or make him a shit ton of money.
Yes.
And I it's such an interesting situation because everyone was like, wow, they went out and got McCaffrey. They really didn't need McCaffrey. Well, guess what? They said McCaffrey wasn't going to be getting the ball 25 times a game. Guess what? He just
Yeah,
became a bell cow again, and he's going to light the league on fire if he stays
that's
healthy
right.
with that system. So, even with Brock Purdy, they're still a top 3 team in the NFC
I
easily. I
agree.
think easily. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this season kind of shapes up here. But moving on here to we're gonna start with the college football playoff. We have a couple college football things we want to talk here. Brandon, congratulations. We didn't want to jinx it last week. Big Ten champion Michigan Wolverines are now the 2 seed in the college football playoff and will be playing TCU, who, I mean, I saw that Kansas State loss coming a mile away. Said it on the show
Yeah.
last week. They're going to boat race TCU, I think. And then they are going to end up, at least I will say this, you should hope they end up playing Georgia again in the national championship and not Ohio State, which is insane because I think Michigan's the better team than Ohio State, but it's just.
Beating a rival 2 times is
Yep,
very,
exactly.
very, very hard. And here's the thing too. By the way, yes, Michigan is Big Ten championships back to back, by the way. Um, I am I'm more confident that I am against TCU than I was against Georgia last year. I think the main difference from with Michigan this year is that they were just happy to beat Ohio State and they were just happy to be Big
Mhm.
Ten champions. That was the 2 biggest goals that they knew was potentially reachable because going into 2021, it was all right. Well, we got to get this ship back in motion because the ship is sinking, and we got to get
Mhm.
somebody
Mhm.
to bring the damn thing back up. And I think they were just happy. They were happy and content with what they had done with the season. I think every Michigan fan would have said last year, 2021 was a success.
Mhm.
But now the ante has been upped by way more, considering Michigan not only are Big Ten champions, we witnessed something that I think a lot of Ohio State fans in their lifetime
Have
thought they
never.
would never see,
Yeah.
and that is getting blown out by Michigan at their own house. So that really bodes well. But I will say, I am rooting like hell for Georgia. I am saying this as a guy that is the ultimate pessimist, but I'm actually being pessimistic for all of the right reasons because beating a team 2 times in a row is very, very hard to do. And Ohio State is probably going to be angry. But
Mhm.
the good thing is they're playing angry against a team that is so clearly better than them. So hopefully that rematch between Michigan and Georgia will happen because it is a battle of the 2 teams that you people are saying are
Mhm.
the best teams in college football. But that brings me to my real big point. I genuinely hate the college football playoff. And you would think from as a guy that is seeing his team in the in the college football playoff that I would be happy, joyous. Oh, woo! No, I'm not. I'll be honest with you. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we potentially might have to play Ohio State again. And here's the thing, I get it. The college football playoff is designed so chaos can probably ensue. The number
Mhm.
4 team can wreck the whole damn thing and win it. That's what everybody wanted to see. That's what people in other leagues like to see. They like to see the underdogs come up from the ashes
Mhm.
and win the whole damn thing. The problem I have is that games like Michigan and Ohio State just simply don't mean that much anymore. Because if they had played in the Big Ten championship game, this argument should would have
Yeah.
even existed. But considering that a rematch may happen between the two, it takes away from the luster of the first matchup. And this is not a matter of, oh, well, of course it is because Michigan already beat them. No. My issue is that every game is not going to matter. It is going to get even worse when it expands to 12 teams. I get you want chaos, you want parity in terms of the playoff system, but college football is not going to mean as much when there's going to be a whole lot of teams that potentially can win a national championship instead of the undisputed 1 and 2 potentially winning the national championship. I just simply do not like this. I don't like it at all.
Well, I will say this, without the college football playoff, you wouldn't have Nick Saban crying to the media saying that Alabama deserves to be in the playoff because everyone says Vegas, we'd be favored in Vegas. No one wants to play Alabama. Objectively fucking hilarious that Nick Saban is bitching and moaning like that when his team lost 2 games. And
right.
I'm still like, I get the perspective you are coming from 100%. I did enjoy the BCS more than the college football playoff. However, I do think I will enjoy the expanded playoff more than the 4, even though that's going to make the regular season mean less. It's going to make the conference championship mean more if the format truly is going to be the Power 5 conference champion, regardless of wins and losses, like total wins and losses. The conference record is all that's going to matter, right? I think that's pretty fucking cool that's what it's going to come down to. And then I think you're going to have, what is it? It's like the group of the top 5 Power 5 conference champions. And then you're going to have, the best group of 5. And then is it 6 wild cards, right? Or something like that.
I think so.
Whatever it is along those lines. So this year you're going to have Kansas State would be in, right?
Yes.
Okay. Kansas State. Then you're going to have, is it Utah won the Pac-12, correct?
Yes.
Michigan, and then Georgia. And then who am I missing here?
American Conference is not Power 5, right?
No,
they're not. Damn, we are missing one. Clemson,
yes. So okay, yes. So those are your 5, right? And then you're gonna have for your 5, your best group of 5 is that Tulane at this point, I think.
Yeah, Tulane.
Okay, so there's 6, and then you're gonna have, let's say Ohio State, Alabama.
Tennessee,
USC, and
K-State.
K-State or TCU. I didn't even say TCU.
Yeah.
TCU. So there's 11, and then I don't know why I can't think of the 12th off the top of my head right now, but it would be chaotic, and I think that would be awesome, especially with how this year there felt like a lot more parity in college football, right?
Very much so.
NIL is only picking up steam, and we've seen it now with what Deion's been able to do in less than a week since becoming the head coach at Colorado. I'm not ruling out Colorado being in the playoff within the next few years if Deion is able to recruit out there, because how many 5-stars does he have already committed there? To go to Colorado, who has been dog shit the last 20 years. Just on the topic of Deion, though, what a quote from him walking into his first meeting with his team saying, "I'm bringing my own luggage, and it's Louis. You better check out the transfer portal." Holy shit, what a quote. I don't know if I was on that team, whether I would love it or whether I would hate it. I'm leaning towards I would hate it, but god damn, what a quote.
I am so tired of Deion slander. I really am. I think it's it's so annoying because I get it from the perspective. What he did for HBCUs was very, very important, very impactful. He got a 5-star to go to HBCU. Like that is some transcendent stuff. Like that's amazing what he's done. But I do think in the spirit of college football, as we know it, nothing ever lasts forever. You can be at a program for as long as you want to. And the thing about it is, let's put yourself in the shoes of Dion. The main revenue he was able to make from HBCUs was through him. It wasn't from anybody else. It was through him. He was the main attraction to HBCUs. But if you talk about everyone else, like you talk about the SWAC conference, they're not providing that type of exposure for HBCUs. So he said, I'm going to get what I can get out of Jackson State, and I'm most likely going to leave. And he has said this. Like, he's going to entertain it. So it shouldn't be a blindside to anybody that he's leaving. And let's be honest, regardless of whether the job was finished by him, the fact of the matter is he got exposure to HBCUs. That was the first that first and foremost point of what he wanted to do. And he succeeded at that.
Yep.
And people, are we really going to sit here and act like you wouldn't take a promotion or a better job in your field? Come on now. It ain't no code switching. It ain't no selling your people out, none of that. No. Deion Sanders did what any coach would do. And remember, Deion, this was his very first stop at college football. Did anyone expect him to just have one stop and just to not listen? I'm going to say this, and I hate to say this because it's a sad reality, but you are not going to get legendary status by coaching at Jackson State University. I hate to say it. I really do. But if you can bring Colorado back from the ashes and make it feel like the 90s again, guess what? Deion is stamped forever. Forever. His stint at Jackson State already made him a very, very big deal.
If he went like what, 25-5 or something like that in his first 2 years? It's insane.
He won back-to-back championships, right?
Yep.
Like, come on.
You can't discount it. I was looking into it too. Like, attendance numbers through the roof, the tax revenue he generated for the city of Jackson. It's just insane. Like, looking at the breakdown, how much economic growth Deion has driven for the university, the city, and all of the entire conference. It's mind-boggling how great he was there, considering it was his first coaching. And yes, I know the argument is people saying, is Deion really that great with the X's and O's? It doesn't matter in college football if you're not that great with X's and O's. It matters if you can recruit, and it matters if you can build a good staff around you. And the way things are looking right now, we sure as hell know he can recruit, and it looks like he's building himself one hell of a staff out in Boulder.
And guess what? I'm going to let y'all in on a secret. A lot of the great head coaches, they're overseers.
Yep.
They're not controlling everything. They get a staff together and they let them do the work. And you know who's the perfect example of that? Jim Harbaugh.
Yep.
Jim Harbaugh's staff does everything on that team. He still knows his X's and O's. He's still a hell of a guy if you want a good offense. But guess what? Guys like him, Nick Saban, I'm like losing. I'm Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
The great ones are overseers. So I'm not worried about the X's and O's. He gonna be all right.
Yeah.
If he got talent, he gonna be all right.
And also on the topic of Deion too, I also found it funny that in his introductory press conference, he points to his son and goes, "That's your quarterback." And then he goes, well, "He's gonna have to earn it." After he caught himself, kid wasn't even in the transfer portal yet.
And you know what?
He's gonna be good there, man. He lit it up the last 2 years.
And he's gonna be playing in the Pac-12. He screams of a Pac-12 quarterback. Okay, he's gonna be good. I have all the confidence in the world in him.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Colorado's going to win a Pac-12 championship right away. That's crazy to say.
Unrealistic.
Yeah, considering what was there this past year. They'll make a bowl game next year. I would be surprised if they don't. Just on talent alone that they're bringing in. I don't care how young they're going to be. I mean, Deion's been tweeting about the transfer portal every single day since he's been hired.
Yeah.
I mean, they will end up. I don't think this is dumb to say. They'll have the number one transfer recruiting class coming in. And
I couldn't agree more.
I think for 24 and 25, since he's taken over, they have top 5 recruiting classes already for the classes of 24 and 25.
Which is insane, but it's only going to go up from here. Just imagine, even if they're in contention for a Pac-12 championship next year, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be, people are going to be talking about them as national championship contenders. Now, granted, this is overseeing far above in the future. However, we cannot doubt that the recruiting that he's going to do is going to be something special. And but you gotta wait and see. But I believe in Deion. I think he's going to do really good things there.
Yeah. So that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Goonery. Thank you if you made it this far. We really appreciate all your listens, all your downloads, subscriptions. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next week, and we'll probably be giving a little bit of a bowl rundown next week, just games we're looking out for, and then, as always, talking Bears. But until then, we will see you next time.